All right. Hey, it's Jonathan from G4 Guitar Player Athol here. I'm here today with David Hart to talk about practice. So, welcome, David.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Jono.
Awesome. So, yeah, for those who don't know who you are, let's just take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself, David, and what you do.
All right, no problem. I guess, well, I've been teaching guitar or started teaching guitar back in the 80s. So I go way, way back to the early days of teaching. I started teaching really as a teenager, and I guess second to my passion for guitar itself, teaching was something that I always loved doing, because I found through teaching it was something that gave me the ability to reflect on my own journey and to see, just to kind of pass along and share. Plus, I had some great teachers myself who really influenced me. And I feel that teaching is just a way to sort of give back. So yeah, I've always loved teaching, and today I'm working with guys all around the world, guitar teachers who, as the G4 network, and we collaborate and doing great things.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks for that, David. So yeah, with all that experience you've got, as a guitar teacher, yourself and me, I can understand the sort of frustration when students don't come to lessons and they haven't practiced, and I can only imagine how parents would feel. So I know you're a parent as well, and your daughter plays guitar, and yeah, you see both sides. You probably get frustrated that she's not practicing and that sort of stuff. So what are some of the main things that you've come across? Both, I guess you can come from both angles really, of why kids, especially kids, don't want to practice at home.
Well, it's a tough one. I think, with guitar itself, firstly, what I'll say is that, yes, I spent many years being the teacher, not being a parent, not understanding really the true parent experience. And as teachers, we get insight, and we're actually in a very fortunate position, because we're seeing the relationships, the many different relationships between parents and their children around practice. And I think even more so than school teachers, because school teachers don't actually see a lot of the parent-child interaction, where we are able to see that, because the parents are often involved in our lessons and turn up, obviously, every time that they have their lessons. And we also get a lot more feedback on how things are going. So from that point of view, I learn a lot from parents. And I have to say that really, in my teaching experience, the greatest teachers to me have been the parents. Seeing all the different kinds of parents, the different ways they do things. And there's no perfect parent and there's no perfect child. There's just different shades of colors, if you like, in the way that they approach things. Some things work for some kids, some things don't. So what I think what I really learned from those many years of watching parents and children is the idea of experimenting. I could see that there is just different ways of doing things. So if you don't experiment, you're not going to get to it. It's almost, as a musician, and anyone who's a musician can probably relate to this, it's kind of like writing a great solo. There's no one way to write a great solo. It depends on the music. It depends on, the kind of what's going on around you, the arrangement, all those kind of things. And you've got to experiment, because your child is different and their environment is different to every other child. So we need to experiment. So I don't give exact prescriptions. I don't say this is the absolute one way that everything works. But I do give you scenarios and anecdotes that have worked for me and worked for other students. And on that point, being a parent, now my daughter is now 9, and I can say now, and maybe this is not the answer that everyone's looking for, but I can honestly say that with my daughter, she still is not passionate about guitar. Even now, she started when she was 3.5. She's now 9. She still won't practice without me. If I'm not there to get the practice done, she's not at that point. Now, some children will. Some children will get to, an age or a stage where they don't need their parents involved anymore. So it really depends. I was personally hoping my daughter would take to it a lot sooner and be so. But at the same time, she's progressing very well. I've experimented with lots of different things, and I know what works now for her, and I can get her to practice. As for when the passion will turn up, I don't know when that'll happen, or even if it will ever happen. But she will have the skill of guitar and music. And what I will add to that before I finish is that she loves singing. So she's had this musical training, and even though she's not really applying it to kind of in a passionate way to guitar, she's got a great ear. In fact, she's got a better ear than I have, because she started at a young age. I started as a teenager. It's critical if you want to have a well-trained ear to start early. And she's also she's just got those other elements, timing and musical awareness and all these other things that she's really got from learning guitar that she now applies to something that she loves, which is singing.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice. Thanks, David. So what are the, you were saying a lot about experimenting with different strategies to get your daughter to practice at home. So yeah, what are some of the things that you did to help her get to practice at home?
I guess the first thing that I did was look for kind of routine times of day that were going to work. And this is one of those things that sometimes doesn't get considered, and that's the timing and the environment and so forth. So if I tried to teach my daughter after dinner, then I found she was more tired, and it was just harder to get her to get motivated. But if I did it before dinner, then I found she had more energy, and we just had a better session, and she was more likely to be on track with what we were doing. So there are many things that I did in terms of giving rewards, setting up games, trialing different ways of doing things. So in other words, when we start practice, do I give her something that she wants to play, or do I do the hard things first? And like I said, it's different for every child. But what I've found with my daughter in particular is that I start with the hard things, whereas another child, I might start with an easy thing. And this was something, kind of a standard recommendation that I used to make, was kind of the sandwich of start with something easy, do the hard stuff in the middle, and then finish with something easy. So they kind of get that feeling. But with my daughter, I found that if I start from the hardest thing and then work back, so it gets easier till we get to the last piece that we practice. What we do is we do 6 pieces every day. So we sit down and we do 6 things. So we've got to work on 6 different songs or 6 different exercises. And the idea is that by the last one, she can choose. She can say, well, I say, what do you want to do now? It's yours. So she gets to choose the dessert, so to speak, of what she wants to play. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. So yeah, I guess what would be your 5 tips to parents, especially if they're parents in general, to assist their child with practicing at home?
Okay. 5, I would first of all, I would say consistency. There's a great book that if any parent wants to read called Grit, Grit, and it's the book just talks about how to develop grit, and it talks about that grit isn't something you're necessarily born with. Of course, there's always genetics. The author makes the point that there's some genetics involved in everything, even guitar playing, but it's not as big as we think. Usually it's a small percentage. Most of the great guitar players or people who become successful or achieve their goals on guitar, it comes through pure hard work. And being born, the grit is the same thing. Some people might have a little bit more genetically predisposition to having a little bit more grit than everybody else. But at the end of the day, it comes down to skills. There are skills, and reading that book is a good way to do that. Now, one of the things, the point I'm going to make here is that she talked about how consistency will trump talent. And so it doesn't matter how much talent you have or how ambitious you are or motivated you are, consistency over time will always win. And it's one of the earliest lessons that we learn, the tortoise and the hare race. Be consistent, small steps over time will always. And so the idea, and this is not just an idea, this is scientifically proven. She talks about all the studies they've done, and they show how the consistency over time wins out nearly all the time. So the idea that I'd say to parents is be consistent. Same time every day. You can vary it. Again, that's experimenting. For some children, even though I say that same time every day, for some children, varying the time works better. Sometimes it might be a matter of finding when they're in that kind of particular mood, a child's mood will change, well, everybody's mood changes, but you'll see that there are optimum times, and you go, this is the time to us. And I know that with my daughter now, I know there's a good time to sort of say, okay, let's do the practice. So consistency every day, without fail, try and do it. And if you can do it 7 days a week, even better. Even if what I do with my daughter on a Sunday, as an example, again, I did this through experiment, was I allow her on Sundays to choose not just one piece, but everything. What do you want to play? You can pick all 6 pieces to play today. So there's the first one. Second one I would say is get involved, of course. Parents who take the time to sit with their child, what they're going to see is better results. So this up until probably the age of 12 or 13, if the parent can sit with their child through each session and just be a part of it, be involved, because a lot of what young children want is parent approval. And this is a great opportunity. It's a great bonding experience. It doesn't matter how busy I am, and everyone knows I'm very busy, but that time of the day, my daughter knows she's got my unfocused attention. So even though she may not realize it now, we know when we grow up, we think back to those special times with our parents, and those were the times when our parents, we had their full attention. They weren't off doing everything else. And in today's world, with everyone checking iPhones all the time and everything else going on, having that time for your child is something special. So if you can sit with your child every time that day, that becomes a time where you're involved and you're able to assist them through the practice. So that's number 2. Number 3 is having some kind of incentive system, and there are again an infinite number of ways, and you have to experiment with what kind of incentives work for your child. But for instance, my daughter gets when we sit down, we do those 6 exercises, and the idea is that she will then get 30 minutes of screen time. So we're not particularly generous, my wife and I, with screen time with our daughter. A lot of kids get plenty of screen time. Our daughter doesn't get any screen time except for 30 minutes a day she gets after her practice, once she's done. She can do what she likes with that screen time. She does get a bit of other screen time, but that's purely for homework. It's not for her having fun. So usually what she likes to do is watch a video or some videos or a TV show or whatever. So it's up to her what she watches in that 30 minutes or what she does. And sometimes a lot of times she likes YouTube music clips and that kind of thing. So that works really well for us. But we've also added to that where she can take the money. So we say you can either take $1 or you can watch the screen time, have your half an hour screen time. So she gets to choose between the two. And so she's sort of choosing. Some days she takes the screen time, some days she takes the money. So it's up to her what she does with that. So creating a reward system is definitely number 3 that I'd add to that list. Number 4, which may seem obvious, but don't give up. That's one of the things that I see with again, this is consistency, this is grit. And it's not just grit from the child, but it's from the parent. And in actual fact, this starts from the parent. So, there's a lot of confusion around, forcing children to do something and not giving up on them. And so the difference that I make, just to sort of clarify, because we don't want to force children. We don't want the guitar to feel like a punishment or some kind of cruel, torture. But what we want to do is not give up. In other words, don't force it, but be creative. And so, okay, well, that's not working. And what I say to my daughter is that we're going to do it anyway. I just got to find out which way we're going to do it. So it's going to happen no matter what. And it depends on my mood as well. There are days when I just say, look, it's just happening. Let's just do it. I'm not gonna argue about it. I'm not gonna fight about it. We're just going to do our practice, and then it's done. It'll take 15, 20 minutes, and it's done. And so, and there have been days where I will let her choose everything. I'll just say, all right, I know you're really not in the mood today. You can choose every song you want to do. Or I might say, look, you can choose the first couple. What do you want to do? What's the song that you want to play? And so she'll go straight to something she obviously can do and likes. So I'll do whatever I have to do to get her into it. And sometimes I might have to give her some other incentive. So it just depends. But, you know, I don't pull a big stick out and say, look, I'm going to, you know, whack you with a stick if you don't practice. We don't want to be cruel. We don't want to do any of that kind of thing. We don't want these negative associations. But sometimes you just got to be tough. And it's like with your child cleaning their teeth. You're not going to say, don't worry, you don't have to clean your teeth today because you're not in the mood. You just do it. And don't give up. As I say, keep going. My daughter's, like I said, she's still not overly passionate about the guitar, but she recognizes the benefits already herself. She can see that. And in actual fact, when we sit down and we start doing guitar, she really enjoys it. She just doesn't want to go away from doing, she loves craft. So she'd prefer to be sitting down and doing craft than having to go and do practice. But once she's doing it, she's fine. Okay, number 5, last one is to be creative, which I've been saying all along. Just look for ways to make the practice more fun. Keep thinking about, keep having ideas, brainstorm, talk to other parents, talk to your teacher. And I'd really, you know, throw that in as probably the bonus recommendation is to speak to the teacher if you're stuck. Don't just sort of think, well, this is all too hard, I'm going to give up. Your teacher has the experience, and they deal with parents all the time, and they're seeing all the different scenarios, and they're seeing what's working and what's not working. And so that's where my experience comes from, is from seeing so many parents and talking to so many teachers over the years that there's just, you know, it would take 1,000 years to get through all the ideas that I've seen that you could try. So yeah, so there's no end to the amount of things that you could try to make it work. So.
Awesome. And I guess the main thing is to just keep it fun as well. Yeah, because we don't want it to be a chore for students to practice, so to speak. We want them to keep having fun playing music, because that's what it's all about, is enjoying the music as well. So yeah, awesome. Thanks David.
Correct. Just on that, Jono, that's a really good point. I just want to add to that, is that yes, we do want to make it fun, but don't expect it to always be fun.
Yeah,
and I think this is really important, is because we think as soon as that it's not fun, it's like exercise.
Yeah.
We want to make exercise fun, and you take a kid to a park and they climb and jump around and run around. They can get exercise, and they can get fit and get healthy and have fun at the same time. We know that can be done. But if they want to excel, you know, you want them to be a fast runner or a fast swimmer or something, then they've got to do the stuff that's not fun as well. And that happens with guitar as well. It's not all fun, but we make it as much fun as we can. And the fun is definitely the reward for the hard work as well. So.
Yeah, it's playing those favorite songs and that sort of thing. That's the great reward anyway. So yeah, awesome. Well, great. Yeah, thanks for that, David. It's been awesome to get your insight about what you've done and your tips for parents to help their children practicing at home. So yeah, thanks again for your time, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time on another video. Awesome.
My pleasure. Great talking to you, Jono.
Cheers,
all right.
David.
See you later.